Hi friends, I wanted to share a video with you guys of how I make my hibiscus flowers and lemongrass oil hair cleansing paste. It has by far been the most successful experiment that I've had yet, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. So what I do is I buy the whole hibiscus flowers, or I grow them and then dry them out. So you've got flower petals like this that are dry, and what I do is I put them in a seed and nut grinder like so, or you can also sometimes you can buy the hibiscus in powder form already. So what I do is I fill this up always. If you're new to using these grinders, you don't want to fill it all the way. This one in particular, you'll end up with a little bit of the powder coming out. But anyway, so I put that in there, and then I'll grind that to a fine powder. So it'll take me several cycles of doing that, and also want to let you guys know, if you're new to using these, to be careful because this makes up a powder dust, and I'll see if I can show you it. So it makes kind of a dust that comes out, and what I actually do is I'll open that outside, or I will open it near my vent. I've got a vent here, so I'll turn that on and it'll suck that out, because you don't really want to be breathing that in. So I'm gonna turn that into a powder and I'll be right back. Okay, so I ground that up real good and I'm putting it into a sifter, and usually I'll use a spoon to stir that around, but I need to hold the phone, so I'm just going to shake it. So I'll get the powder out, and then I'll run that through the grinder a few more times until it's all powder and there's no chunks left. Alright, so I've ground up as much as I want to, and I'm left with some little bits in here that won't go through. You do not want to pour what's left into your mixture. And the reason why is because even this fine powder that's left over is going to swell when you add water to it. All of these little powder particles, they actually expand quite a bit, and you'll be surprised at how lumpy the paste can get. So if you put these larger bits in there, you're gonna have a whole bunch of little chunks in your hair. One thing I also want to point out with this hibiscus is that it has a lot of red color in it. So this may not be good for someone with light colored hair that doesn't want their hair to turn red. I'm not sure. I have brown hair. I personally haven't seen it do anything weird to my hair. It hasn't colored it as far as I can tell, but I could see how this might change the color of your hair. This does not seem to stain my hands or my fingernails, and it hasn't stained the shower curtain, but I haven't used it for very long, so don't hold me to that. It may or may not stain things. I'm avoiding using it on my marble tile in my master bathroom because that stuff stains pretty easily. So the other thing is that I don't measure. I am just winging it, and I know some of you are probably going to judge me for that, but you know, I pretty much just do this for myself, and I I don't really care. So if you find use in this, that's great. If not, whatever. Um, but I think it's pretty wonderful for my hair, and so, here I am sharing it. Anyway, so you can make as much of this stuff as you like, but the idea is not to save it for too long because it will biodegrade, and it can spoil and get excuse me, get gross after a while. So I just recycle plastic containers. I don't like to throw stuff away if I don't have to, and I don't want to buy new stuff. So this is just a gelato container. It used to have gelato in it. And so here, I'm going to come back with this. Alright, so I'm doing a pretty small batch right now. But like I said, you're going to add water and this will expand some. And I've made batches where I fill this whole container and they last me for a good week. And I haven't had to throw it out or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add water to this, just enough to make it a creamy paste. And then I have to let it sit for a little while because these particles are going to absorb the water and it's going to actually start to feel kind of dry and thick. And then we'll have to add more water until we get it to a nice creamy consistency. Alright, so it's kind of hard to do one-handed, but right now it's kind of a creamy paste, and I just added the first bit of water. So here in a few minutes I'm going to stir it some more and add some more water because it's going to be too thick. You want it to be creamy, sort of like maybe a mayonnaise consistency, obviously with texture in it, but the idea is that you want it to be able to spread fairly easy in your hair. And if it's thick and clumpy, then what happens is the clumps end up just falling to the bottom of your shower or your bathtub or wherever you're washing your hair, and it doesn't actually spread into your hair. And what I found is that experimenting with the thickness of the mixture is definitely helpful. Okay, so I added more water and it's looking pretty good right now. I'm probably going to have to add water for a third time. And sometimes when you go to use this in the shower, you'll notice that it's actually kind of dry and clumpy again. And it's perfectly fine if you add a little bit of water in the shower. The important thing is that you don't add too much water. If you make this too runny or soupy or watery, it's not going to clean your hair. The next thing I do is I put lemongrass pure essential oil. You want to make sure it's 100% pure and it's not mixed with a bunch of garbage, chemicals and things. And you don't want to use very much of this. I know there's some people out there that say, oh, put a tablespoon of oil in your mixture, and that's just way too much. You really only need a tiny little bit. And I recommend that you experiment because everybody's hair is different. Some people might do better with more, and some people might do better with less. Some people might do better without it at all. But what I found is that this in particular gives my hair a really pretty shine, and that's something I was having a hard time getting with my other mixtures. I could get my hair clean, but it didn't have a really pretty sheen to it. So for this particular size of mixture, I'm only going to do about 3 drops. And again, it's not an exact science, just experiment. Alright, so I put my lemongrass drops in there, and for those of you that don't know, lemongrass smells like it sounds. It's got a very lemony fragrance to it. So if you don't like lemon, you might want to try something different, like maybe lavender essential oil. But I've noticed a distinct difference between the sheen that I get from the lemongrass versus lavender oil. The lemongrass just really seems to give me a prettier sheen. Okay, so I mixed in the I mixed in the lemongrass, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's very red, and actually, I think it smells really good. Hibiscus flowers by themselves, when they're wet, don't smell fantastic, but I mean, they don't smell bad either. So what I'll do is I will close that up, and I can use it immediately, or I can store it in the fridge for about a week and use it as needed. The important thing here is that you refrigerate it anytime you're not using it. It's okay to have it in the hot shower, you know, when you're bathing, but definitely has to be refrigerated if you don't want it to go bad or start smelling gross. If this does start to smell bad, or if you see mold, then throw it out and make a new batch. But honestly, I haven't experienced that yet. And like I said, I've made whole cups of this stuff before and kept it for a whole week in the fridge with no problems. Now I want to explain what it's gonna feel like and what you have to do when you use this stuff. So like I said, these little particles, they swell up, and so you're basically putting plant matter in your hair. If you've got super thick curly hair that might be hard to get this sort of thing out of, you might not want to do it, or you might want to try with a tiny little bit first just to make sure you can get it out of your hair. My hair is mostly straight with a little bit of a wave to it when it dries naturally. And my hair is also sort of thin, so what I have to do when I put this in my hair is you apply it at the roots and you massage it in all the way around your head, being careful not to get this stuff in your eyes, and try not to get it in your ears. Not a huge deal if you do, but if you get it in your eyes, it could be really uncomfortable. And so you massage that in real good, and then you can either let it sit, because it might potentially be good for your hair, or you could rinse it out right away. And it will take some effort to rinse this out, not because it's leaving any sort of a residue on your hair follicles, but because the little particles, you really have to get good water flowing through your hair to rinse all of that out. And it might be frustrating the first few times you do it, but once you get the hang of it, it's really not a big deal. My recommendations for washing this stuff out is to use hot water and good water pressure. And you're going to need to run your fingers through your hair at the roots while you're running water over those areas. That's going to be the best way for you to flush this stuff out of your hair. And what I find with this stuff is that the oils and dirt in my hair actually seem to attach to the hibiscus, and it's washed away with the particles and stuff that I'm washing out of my hair, or the plant matter that I'm washing out of my hair. It's actually really quite interesting that it works that way. It's not foaming, there's no suds, there's no surfactants, absolutely no chemicals. The only thing that is in there is that to make an essential oil, they have to use alcohol. So you put a couple of drops of this in there, you are also putting a tiny little bit of alcohol in there, but it's such a small amount, it really shouldn't be a big deal. And I also haven't had this stain my skin or do anything weird. And like I said, I have brown hair, and it hasn't discolored my hair or made my hair red. It's still brown. And also keep in mind that this is messy. It will make a mess wherever you're washing, so be prepared to wash that out or clean it up. You know, the idea isn't about convenience with this stuff. It's about what's healthy for your hair and your body and what has the least amount of chemicals. So don't expect this to be just a cakewalk. And also, I'm going to be doing a video that talks about what to expect when you're going from commercial hair products to something like this. There is a transition period where your hair has to adjust. Your hair is going to be crazy and whacked out and you're going to hate it. And you have to go through that phase and let your hair adjust. And it's really important that you guys watch my other video explaining that before you do this, because if you don't, and you don't know what you're getting into, you'll use this stuff and you'll freak out and you'll think, you know, oh my gosh, my hair, it's trashed, I'm doing something awful. And that's not the case. It is your body adjusting to not having to compensate for having all those chemicals and things in your body. And so I think that's it for now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, you know, like I said, sorry, but I don't have measurements, and you know, it's not a professional video or anything, but it's definitely something that I'm really excited about, and I wanted to share with other people that are looking for non-commercial homemade ways to better clean their hair.